The first time I saw Marcus, he was pushing a mop across the far end of the gym floor, humming something low under his breath. It was early, just before the evening rush, and the place smelled faintly of sweat, rubber mats, and the citrus cleaner he seemed to favor. The hum was soft, almost private, like he was keeping the tune to himself rather than sharing it. His back was to me, but the way he moved caught my attention, not because he was graceful but because there was something deliberate about it. Each step seemed placed with care, as if he was aware of every square inch of the ground he covered. Most of the members barely noticed him. In a gym like ours, glossy mirrors, expensive equipment, top-tier martial arts classes. The janitorial staff melted into the background. People came in, trained hard, bragged louder, and left without ever thinking about who cleaned the mats they sweated on or emptied the trash bins they filled. But I'd been watching Marcus for weeks. There was something about the way he carried himself that didn't fit the uniform. The faded navy work shirt, the name stitched over the breast pocket, the frayed black pants. They told one story. His posture told another. It was Alex, the Cobra Carmichael, who finally broke the silence between Marcus and the rest of us. Alex wasn't just a black belt, he was the black belt. 3-time state champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, undefeated in his division for nearly 2 years, and the loudest voice in the room no matter where you stood. If Alex walked into the gym, you knew it. He had that kind of energy, the kind that either drew you in or made you want to step aside. And tonight, Alex had a smirk that promised trouble. "Hey, Marcus," Alex called out, loud enough for everyone in earshot to turn. Marcus stopped mid-swipe, looking up slowly, almost cautiously. "You ever do any fighting? You know, for fun?" A ripple of amusement went through the room. A couple of white belts paused mid-drill, exchanging curious glances. Someone chuckled in the weight section. Alex had that reputation, the guy who challenged people just to see them flounder. It was part of his charm to some, arrogance to others. Either way, it always got attention. Marcus's expression didn't change much. He leaned the mop against the wall, wiped his hands slowly on the towel hanging from his belt, and took a step toward Alex. "What kind of fighting you mean?" His voice was calm, smooth, the kind of tone that didn't match the stereotype people had for a janitor being put on the spot. Alex grinned. "Nothing serious. Just a light spar. You and me right here on the mat. Think you can handle that?" The gym seemed to pause. The air got heavier, quieter, except for the faint buzz of the fluorescent lights overhead. This was what Alex did. Push someone into the spotlight, make them dance for the crowd. Usually, the target laughed it off or muttered an excuse. But Marcus didn't laugh. He didn't frown either. He just looked at Alex for a long moment, his eyes unreadable. Finally, Marcus tilted his head slightly. "Sure," he said, like he was agreeing to help move a box or wipe down a bench. No hesitation, no bravado. Just a simple yes. Alex's smirk widened. "All right then, let's make it fun." The mats were already set up for the evening's advanced class, so it didn't take much to clear some space. By now, half the gym had gathered to watch. Phones appeared in hands. Whispers swirled through the crowd. As Marcus stepped onto the mat, I noticed something strange. He didn't bounce on his toes like Alex, didn't roll his shoulders or stretch dramatically. He just stood there, feet planted, hands loose at his sides. But his eyes, they were sharp now, locked onto Alex like they'd known each other for years. The coach looked uneasy but didn't intervene. Maybe he thought it would be quick. Maybe he trusted Alex to control himself. Either way, there was no stopping it now. What none of us knew then was that this just-for-fun sparring match was about to become the story everyone in that room would remember for the rest of their lives. The crowd pressed in closer, drawn by the kind of electricity that only comes before a confrontation. Some leaned against the rail, others crouched by the edge of the mat, phones angled for the best view. I could hear the faint hum of someone's live stream starting up, the digital echo of a "you guys are not gonna believe this" already in the air. Alex took his time, circling Marcus the way a cat toys with a mouse before pouncing. His bare feet slid across the mat with that whispery sound of skin against vinyl. Every step was deliberate, calculated to project dominance. His shoulders were loose, his grin wide, His eyes lit with the kind of confidence that comes from hundreds of victories, and the certainty that another was about to be added to the list. Marcus didn't move. He stood in the center like a rooted tree, hands still loose, chest rising and falling slowly. His gaze tracked Alex's movements, not in jerky snaps like someone overwhelmed, but in smooth arcs, a kind of visual control I'd only ever seen in seasoned fighters. Yet his stance was almost wrong. No guard up, no shift in balance, nothing that screamed, trained. And maybe that's why Alex's grin deepened. "Remember," Alex said, tossing a wink toward the audience. "Just for fun." Then he lunged. It was fast, that snap of motion that made newcomers gasp. Alex's right foot slid forward. His lead hand shooting out in a probing jab meant more to test than to land. But before it could reach its target, Marcus moved. Not much, not dramatically. Just enough. A subtle turn of his shoulders, a shift in weight, and Alex's fist slid past his cheek like it had been aimed wrong from the start. The miss didn't break Alex's rhythm. He followed with a low kick, the kind that thudded against thigh muscle and left bruises blooming the next day. This time, Marcus didn't just dodge, he caught it. His hand snapped down, fingers locking around Alex's shin with an iron grip that looked casual but had Alex freezing mid-motion. For a heartbeat, nobody spoke. The crowd leaned in. Alex's grin faltered, just for a flicker of a second, before returning like nothing had happened. He jerked his leg back, freeing himself, and reset. "Nice reflexes," he said, but there was a new edge in his voice. Marcus didn't answer. He didn't need to. The second exchange came quicker. Alex feinted high, swung low, and tried to catch Marcus off guard. This time Marcus stepped in, closing the distance so abruptly that Alex had to stumble back to keep from getting smothered. Their chests almost touched, and for the first time, I saw Marcus's hands rise. Not in a guard, but in a position so precise it looked choreographed. He didn't throw a punch. He didn't need to. The way his body angled, the way his feet shifted. It was like watching someone tune an instrument before playing a note. And Alex felt it. You could see it in his eyes, that microsecond of realization that the man in front of him wasn't just a janitor with decent reflexes. The crowd must have sensed it too, because the room got quieter. The whispers faded. The phones steadied in hands. Nobody wanted to miss a single frame. And then Marcus smiled. It wasn't wide or mocking. It was the kind of smile that said, "I've been here before." The kind that told you the next few seconds were going to change the tone of the match entirely. Alex came in again, sharper this time, aiming for control. But Marcus was no longer reacting, he was leading. His steps guided Alex without force, turning his momentum into missteps, making the champion look just slightly off. And every time Alex tried to reset, Marcus was already there, waiting, like he'd known where the fight was headed all along. By the end of that minute, Alex's grin was gone. By the third minute, the tone in the room had changed. The snickering and casual murmurs that had filled the first moments were gone, replaced by a strange, heavy quiet. Alex was still the one pressing forward, still throwing the combinations he'd drilled 1,000 times. But something was off. His footwork wasn't as clean. His breathing came a little faster. Every time he committed to a strike, Marcus was there. Not just dodging, but turning the angle in a way that forced Alex to reset. It was like trying to fight smoke. You could see it, feel it brush past you, but your hands never quite caught it. I could see the calculation in Marcus's eyes, the tiny adjustments in his stance, the way his shoulders stayed loose while Alex's began to tense. He wasn't reacting. He was reading. Every twitch of Alex's hips, every subtle shift in weight. Marcus seemed to process and counter before the movement even finished. The crowd was locked in now, their bodies leaning toward the mat as if getting closer would help them understand what they were seeing. Someone near me whispered, "Who is this guy?" But no one answered. Even the coach, usually quick to call a halt when things felt uneven, stayed silent, eyes narrowing like he too was trying to work out what he was witnessing. Alex tried to shake it off, throwing a sharp front kick that would have sent most beginners stumbling back. Marcus didn't stumble. He didn't even block in the conventional sense. He stepped just outside the line of the strike, his hand brushing the incoming leg like a teacher correcting a student's form, and let the momentum carry Alex past him. The movement was so smooth it looked accidental, but I saw Alex's jaw tighten as he turned to face him again. And then Marcus did something that made the air in the room shift. He stepped forward. Not a shuffle, not a feint, a full step, closing the gap until they were inside each other's space. His eyes never left Alex's, and there was no hurry in his movement, no wasted energy. He raised his hands for the first time in the entire spar, palms open, and in that instant, the dynamic flipped. Alex's confidence wavered just enough for everyone to notice. The next exchange was faster, sharper. Alex came in with a 1-2, then a low kick, testing, probing for an opening. Marcus absorbed the sequence without absorbing a single blow, his movements small and economical, like every inch mattered. And when Alex's guard dropped for a fraction of a second, Marcus struck. It wasn't a haymaker, wasn't flashy, just a short, tight jab to the chest that knocked Alex a full step backward. You could hear the thump echo off the walls, followed by a quick inhale from the crowd. Alex tried to laugh it off, but the sound was thin. He rolled his shoulders, paced in a small circle, and came at Marcus again, this time with more aggression. The rhythm changed. Their feet slapped against the mat in quicker bursts, the sound of effort filling the silence. Marcus began to move with a subtle rhythm of his own, almost like a dance. Every advance Alex made seemed to be part of Marcus's plan, each step leading to the next without resistance, until Alex was swinging at air again. That's when I noticed Marcus's breathing. It was steady, almost meditative, while Alex's chest was beginning to heave. Sweat streaked down Alex's temple, and his strikes, though still fast, lacked the crispness they had at the start. Marcus, meanwhile, looked as if he'd just started warming up. It happened so subtly that at first I thought I was imagining it. Alex, the champion, was being guided around the mat like a beginner. Every turn, every shift in direction was initiated by Marcus. He wasn't overpowering Alex. He was dismantling him, piece by piece. And the more it happened, the quieter the room became, until all I could hear was the sound of bare feet sliding and the faint, deliberate exhale of Marcus's breath. Somewhere in the back, a phone lowered. Then another. People who had been recording now found themselves just watching, almost forgetting this had started as a joke. Whatever this was, it wasn't just for fun anymore. And for the first time since I'd known him, Alex's face showed something I never thought I'd see in the middle of a spar. Uncertainty. If you want, I can roll straight into part 4 and have the fight tip even further. Maybe with Marcus revealing a hint of his hidden past mid-spar, while Alex starts to crack under the pressure. That would keep the momentum sharp and make the audience fully invest in Marcus. The tension in the room was almost tangible now, like the very air had thickened and made every breath a conscious effort. Alex's usual bravado was slipping through his fingers like sand, and for the first time, the champion's eyes flickered with a trace of doubt. He was sweating profusely, his forehead shining under the harsh gym lights, and his breaths came shorter, more ragged. Every muscle in his body screamed for a break, but he kept pushing, driven by pride more than reason. Marcus, on the other hand, appeared eerily calm. It was as if he existed in a separate plane, detached from the physical strain that should have marked his every movement. He moved with a fluidity that belied his bulky janitorial frame, each step measured and purposeful. His gaze was steady, unwavering, and when he glanced toward the crowd, a faint smile played on his lips, a smile that carried the weight of untold stories and a quiet confidence that unsettled even the most hardened spectators. As they circled again, Marcus's voice cut through the silence, low but clear. "You don't know who you're dealing with, do you?" His words hung in the air, loaded with meaning. Alex's eyes narrowed, trying to mask the flicker of unease, but Marcus pressed on. "I've walked halls you wouldn't dare enter, fought battles that never made it to the mats." There was a pause, an electric stillness that gripped everyone present. Marcus's words weren't just bravado. They carried the weight of experience, hardship, and survival. The gym, once filled with jeers and laughter, now felt like a confessional where secrets were laid bare in the form of movement and challenge. Alex lunged, desperation seeping into his strikes, but Marcus countered with effortless grace. parrying each blow as if dancing to a rhythm only he could hear. With a swift movement, Marcus trapped Alex's arm, twisting it gently but firmly. The room gasped collectively. This was no longer a friendly spar. It was a battle for respect, a fight where reputations hung in the balance. Sweat dripped from Alex's brow as he struggled, but Marcus's grip was unyielding. "Give up yet?" Marcus's tone was almost teasing, but beneath it lay a razor-sharp edge. Alex gritted his teeth, summoning every ounce of strength to break free. With a sudden jerk, he wrenched his arm loose and backed away, breathing heavily. The crowd exhaled with him, caught in the whirlwind of emotions swirling around the mat. Marcus took a step back too, his eyes never leaving Alex's. "This isn't about winning or losing," Marcus said softly. "It's about knowing who you are when the world tries to write your story for you." Alex's chest rose and fell rapidly, his mind racing to process the man before him. A janitor who had effortlessly dismantled his confidence, who moved like a master yet carried himself like a man untouched by the pride of belts and titles. For the first time, Alex felt the sting of humility, the sharp pang of realizing that skill alone didn't tell the whole story. The room remained silent, every spectator caught in the raw honesty of the moment. Marcus's words echoed in their minds, challenging their assumptions about strength, identity, and the battles fought beyond the mats. And as the next round began, the dynamic had shifted irrevocably. What started as a casual challenge had blossomed into a profound confrontation, not just between two fighters, but between the masks they wore and the truths they carried beneath. The gym lights flickered overhead as the sparring match resumed, but the energy in the room had transformed. No longer was it just about a black belt throwing punches or a janitor defending himself. It was a collision of worlds, histories, and unspoken truths. Marcus's steady breath and measured movements contrasted sharply with Alex's growing frustration. The champion's pride bruised in ways a fist never could. As they circled, Marcus's eyes softened for a brief second, and the mask of invincibility slipped just enough for a glimpse of the man beneath. "You ever wonder why someone like me ends up here?" he asked quietly, almost to himself. The words seemed out of place amidst the grunts and shuffles, but they pierced the silence. Alex hesitated, sensing that the fight had transcended physical combat. "What do you mean?" he finally replied, wiping sweat from his brow. Marcus paused, a flicker of something vulnerable passing through his gaze. "I wasn't always the guy cleaning these floors." He let the words hang, the weight of them filling the space between them. "Once I dreamed of fighting professionally. Had talent too. But life doesn't care about talent. Cares about what you survive." The room felt tighter, the walls closing in with the gravity of Marcus's confession. He spoke not just to Alex, but to every person watching, those who'd ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or written off. "I lost my chance. Family, mistakes, the system. All of it pushed me down. This job is my second chance to be part of something bigger, even if it's just behind the scenes." Alex's fists relaxed momentarily, a shift in his demeanor so subtle most would have missed it. For the first time, he saw Marcus not as an opponent but as a man shaped by struggle, resilience, and quiet dignity. The fight recommenced, slower now, more deliberate. Alex's strikes carried less arrogance and more respect, while Marcus moved with a calm that seemed to absorb the very tension in the room. Their bodies told a story of conflict, loss, and redemption. Each parry and dodge a word in an unspoken conversation. Then, in a moment that felt suspended in time, Marcus executed a flawless sweep, gently knocking Alex off balance. The crowd gasped as the champion hit the mat, eyes wide with disbelief. But Marcus didn't press his advantage. Instead, he extended a hand, helping Alex to his feet. Breathing heavily, Alex looked up into Marcus's steady gaze and saw not a rival, but a kindred spirit. The fight had ended, not with a knockout or a submission, but with a silent understanding that transcended belts, titles, and status. As the room erupted into applause, Marcus stepped back, a humble smile crossing his face. He wasn't just the janitor anymore. He was a reminder that strength comes in many forms, and sometimes The greatest battles are fought far from the spotlight. The days that followed the sparring match felt like a strange dream hanging heavy over the gym. Nothing was quite the same anymore. Marcus had always been there, quietly doing his job, sweeping the floors, emptying the trash, making sure the place looked spotless. But now, everyone's eyes followed him wherever he went. It was like he had transformed from a ghost into a legend overnight. Alex, too, was changed. The fire in his eyes had softened, replaced by something more complex. A mixture of respect, doubt, and a hunger he hadn't known before. He couldn't shake the image of Marcus's calm gaze, the effortless way he moved, and that subtle smile that hinted at battles fought far beyond the mats. One evening, as the gym emptied and the last echoes of punching bags and grunts faded away, Alex found himself standing near the locker room, watching Marcus as he packed up his cleaning supplies. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting long shadows on the floor. For a moment, the bravado fell away, and Alex spoke, his voice low and hesitant. "Marcus, can I talk to you for a minute?" Marcus paused, his hand resting on the handle of his mop. He looked up slowly, meeting Alex's eyes with that same steady calm. "Sure," Marcus said simply. They moved to a quiet corner, away from the usual buzz of the gym. Alex ran a hand through his damp hair, his chest rising and falling with nervous energy. "I've been thinking about that day. The spar. You caught me off guard. Not just because of your skill, but because of who you are. I guess I never really saw you before." Marcus nodded, his expression unreadable. "It's crazy," Alex continued. "I've been fighting for years, training hard, winning titles. And yet, you showed me something I didn't expect. Strength isn't just about technique or belts. It's about heart. About surviving when the world wants to write you off." Marcus's eyes softened. "That's what I've been trying to say. It's not about the rank or the spotlight. It's about knowing your worth even when no one else does." They stood there in silence for a moment, the weight of their shared understanding filling the space between them. "Maybe we're not so different after all," Alex said finally, a small smile breaking through. Marcus smiled back, the kind of smile that held stories and scars, hope and resilience. From that night on, something shifted in the gym. The walls that had once separated the fighters from the staff began to crumble. Conversations sparked in the locker rooms and by the water fountains. Marcus was no longer just the janitor. He was a teacher, a mentor, a symbol of perseverance. And Alex? He started to see beyond the trophies and titles, embracing the lessons that went deeper than any match. Their unlikely friendship became a beacon for everyone who walked through those doors. Proof that respect and strength could come from the most unexpected places. The shift in the gym was palpable. People who once barely acknowledged Marcus now greeted him with nods of respect, some even stopping to ask for advice or just to share a smile. It was as if his quiet dignity had cracked open a door to something deeper in all of them. A reminder that strength was more than muscle and technique. It was grit, heart, and unspoken battles fought outside the limelight. Alex, for his part, started showing up early and staying late, not just for training but to learn from Marcus in ways the black belt hadn't expected. It wasn't lessons in fighting exactly. Marcus didn't correct Alex's form or teach new moves on the mat. Instead, he shared stories, snippets of his life that felt more like parables than mere anecdotes. Tales of hardship, of nights spent wondering if he'd ever rise above the labels forced on him, of the moments when hope flickered dim but refused to die. One evening, as the sun dipped low and cast amber light through the gym windows, Alex found himself sitting beside Marcus, wiping sweat from his brow after a grueling session. "Why didn't you ever tell me any of this before?" Alex asked, his voice softer than usual. Marcus shrugged, a wistful smile tugging at his lips. "What would have been the point? People see what they want to see. The janitor, the guy who cleans floors, not the man who's lived 1,000 lives inside and outside this gym." Alex nodded, understanding more than words could say. "But now it's different. You've changed everything." Marcus looked at him, eyes gleaming with something fierce and hopeful. "No, Alex, you've changed too. You had to see me, not as a janitor but as a fighter. as someone worthy of respect. Their friendship deepened in the weeks that followed. Alex found himself questioning his own motivations and the hollow victories that once defined him. He trained harder, but with a new purpose, one shaped by humility and the lessons Marcus embodied. The gym itself began to reflect this transformation. The energy shifted from competition to community. Beginners found mentors not just in instructors but in each other. Walls of judgment came down, replaced by bridges of understanding. Marcus's story became a catalyst, inspiring others to look beyond the surface, to find strength in vulnerability and courage in truth. And as for Marcus, the man once invisible, he finally felt seen. The change in the gym wasn't just in the atmosphere. It was in the people themselves. A quiet revolution was unfolding, one that wasn't marked by loud announcements or flashy posters, but by subtle shifts in how everyone moved, talked, and even breathed within those walls. Marcus had become more than just the janitor who surprised everyone in the sparring match. He was becoming a symbol, a living reminder that strength comes in many forms, and that sometimes the most powerful fighters are the ones who fought the longest battles away from the spotlight. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, casting long shadows through the gym's large windows, Marcus stayed behind after everyone else had left. The soft hum of the fluorescent lights was the only sound as he methodically cleaned the mats, moving with a rhythm that felt almost meditative. The gym was quiet, but in that silence was a deep sense of purpose. A promise that every inch of the floor mattered, every corner deserved care. Alex entered quietly, his footsteps light against the floor. He watched Marcus for a moment, admiring the way he moved, so different from the explosive energy Alex was used to on the mats. When Marcus finally looked up, their eyes met, and a small smile passed between them. "I thought I'd find you here," Alex said, wiping the sweat from his forehead. Marcus nodded, setting down the mop. "Some things don't change," he replied softly. They stood there for a moment, the weight of unspoken words hanging between them. Then Alex broke the silence. "You know, I keep thinking about that day, the sparring match. Not just the fight, but what it meant. You showed me a side of myself I didn't want to see." Marcus tilted his head, curious. "I was so sure of my strength, my skill. I thought titles and belts made me untouchable. But you made me realize it's not about that. It's about heart, about resilience, about never letting the world define you." Marcus smiled, a warmth in his eyes. "It takes courage to admit that." Alex laughed softly, shaking his head. "Yeah, well, I'm learning. Slowly." The conversation drifted, touching on hopes, regrets, and the unexpected lessons life throws at you. Marcus shared stories of his youth, the struggles he faced growing up in a neighborhood where opportunities were scarce and judgment was plenty. He spoke of dreams deferred, of fights that weren't on the mat but in the streets, and of finding solace in discipline and quiet moments. Alex listened intently, the walls around his own heart beginning to crumble. In the weeks that followed, their bond grew stronger. Marcus began to teach Alex more than just fighting techniques. He taught him patience, humility, and the power of presence. Together, they worked not just to hone skills but to reshape their understanding of strength. The gym flourished under this new spirit. Members who had once been rivals became allies. The janitorial staff were no longer invisible, their work recognized as part of the lifeblood of the community. And at the center of it all was Marcus, the man who'd reminded everyone that sometimes the most profound victories happen off the mat. One night, as the gym emptied and the lights dimmed, Marcus stood alone in the center of the mat. He closed his eyes, breathing deeply, feeling the echoes of every story, every struggle, every triumph that had brought him here. He wasn't just a janitor. He was a fighter, a survivor, a teacher. And this was only the beginning. The days following the sparring match seemed to ripple outwards, touching every corner of the gym in ways no one anticipated. What started as a simple challenge had become a catalyst, a quiet revolution brewing beneath the surface. People who once barely glanced Marcus's way now sought him out, eager to learn not just about fighting, but about resilience, about dignity, about the stories he carried beneath his calm exterior. Marcus was patient with them all. He never boasted or claimed expertise beyond what he'd lived. Instead, he shared lessons learned the hard way, through struggle, loss, and quiet perseverance. His words were like seeds, planting hope and courage in hearts that had been hardened by life's blows. Alex watched this transformation with a mix of awe and humility. The champion who once dominated the mats with sheer confidence now found himself humbled, challenged in ways that no title could prepare him for. Training sessions stretched longer, deeper, shifting from mere physical exertion to explorations of purpose and identity. One evening, as the gym's lights cast long shadows on the walls, Marcus and Alex stood side by side on the mat, catching their breath after a particularly intense session. The sweat dripped from their brows, mingling with the dust and grit that seemed to settle permanently in the air. "You know," Alex began, his voice softer than usual, "I never thought I'd learn so much from the guy who cleans the floors." Marcus chuckled, a low, warm sound. "Funny how life works, isn't it?" They shared a smile, a moment of understanding that needed no words. As weeks turned into months, Marcus's influence grew. The gym was no longer just a place to spar or win trophies. It was a community. Walls that once divided ranks and roles began to dissolve, replaced by mutual respect and shared stories. Beginners found mentors in unexpected places, and veterans rediscovered their passion through renewed purpose. Marcus's own story began to weave into the fabric of the gym's culture. His journey, from forgotten boy to unrecognized fighter to respected teacher, inspired many. People listened when he spoke not because he held a belt, but because he spoke truth. And yet, beneath the surface, Marcus wrestled with his own demons. The battles he'd fought outside the gym, the losses, the regrets, the scars unseen, were still there. Sometimes, late at night when the world was quiet, those memories surfaced, testing the strength he'd fought so hard to build. But he faced them as he faced every challenge, head-on with quiet resolve. One quiet night, after closing the gym, Marcus stood alone outside, the distant city lights shimmering as he inhaled deeply, feeling the heavy weight of his past alongside the bright promise of the future. He realized he was no longer merely surviving, he was truly living. This was his fight now, a battle far beyond just the physical, one tied to his spirit and identity. The gym had transformed into a sacred place, a sanctuary where sweat blended with stories, and every movement held deeper meaning beyond mere technique. Marcus was no longer just the janitor quietly working behind the scenes. He had become the heart of the community, a silent force that connected everyone. Meanwhile, Alex, once arrogant and unshakable, was evolving through their shared journey, learning humility and the real meaning of strength. After a tough training session, Marcus and Alex rested on worn benches near the locker room. The exhaustion of their bodies mirrored the depth of their conversation. Alex admitted he had never seen fighting as anything beyond the physical until now. "It's about who you are when the gloves come off," he said. Marcus agreed, explaining that the battles inside shape every punch and that unseen scars linger long after the fight ends. Alex looked deeply at Marcus, beyond the janitor, beyond the fighter, and asked how he could keep going when it felt like the world was against him. Marcus smiled knowingly and said the key was to find something worth fighting for, something bigger than the pain and doubt. For him, it wasn't about belts or glory. It was proving to himself that he mattered. Alex acknowledged that Marcus had transformed not just the gym but himself. Marcus responded that everyone has a fight inside and sometimes it takes losing everything to understand what truly matters. They stood to leave as the gym seemed to pulse with new energy, alive with possibility. The fighters, staff, and newcomers were all part of a quiet revolution sparked by Marcus. Stepping out into the night, Marcus felt the weight of his past lighten, replaced by the promise of a future he was finally ready to claim. The next morning, the gym bathed in early light was more than a training space. It was a sanctuary where battles were fought with fists, hearts, and minds. Marcus recalled the sparring match that changed everything, when the world saw him as a fighter with a story worth hearing, not just a janitor. That day shattered the labels pinned on him by others and even those he had carried himself. As the gym filled with members, Marcus greeted them with quiet respect. Beneath the surface buzz, a deeper community was taking root, one forged through shared struggle and silent understanding. Alex arrived with renewed calm and determination, their bond stronger than ever. Their training evolved from dominance and skill showcase to connection, growth, and relentless self-improvement. Marcus taught Alex to listen deeply, to opponents, to his body, and to his spirit, finding balance in chaos and strength in vulnerability. One grueling afternoon, Alex admitted he'd once equated toughness with never showing weakness, but now he understood it was about facing fears and moving forward. Marcus smiled, proud, saying, "That's the real fight." News of Marcus's transformation spread beyond the gym. New faces from all walks of life came seeking not just training but hope and belonging. Marcus stayed grounded, never forgetting his roots or struggles. Each step forward was taken carrying the weight of his past alongside a bright future. In quiet moments between training and life, Marcus found peace. A peace born from resilience and an unyielding spirit. The gym became a haven not just for fighters but for anyone searching for meaning. A place to heal and grow. Marcus walked among punching bags and worn mats, echoes of past battles whispering. He was steady, shaped by years of hardship and quiet strength. That day, a new group of young men and women arrived from neighborhoods like his own, places where dreams often died beneath struggle and survival. They saw Marcus as a beacon, proof that where you start doesn't define where you'll go. One teenager asked Marcus quietly how he kept going when everything seemed against him. Marcus knelt and answered simply, "You fight because you have to, not for trophies but for yourself." Each step forward was a victory. The girl's eyes sparked with hope. Meanwhile, Alex trained harder than ever, fueled by Marcus's lessons. His former arrogance faded, replaced by quiet determination and humility. He pushed his limits but also learned to listen, to his body, mind, and Marcus's wisdom. One fading light sparring session showed growth as Alex paused instead of following aggression with aggression. Marcus smiled and reminded him it's not how hard you hit but how well you control yourself in chaos. Word of Marcus's journey inspired the wider community. Schools invited him to speak about resilience and perseverance. Marcus became more than janitor or fighter. He became a mentor and symbol of hope. But shadows of his past still lingered. Memories whispered doubts on quiet nights. Still, every sunrise he chose to rise, to keep moving forward. The gym changed Marcus as much as he changed it. Together, they forged a new legacy built on respect, courage, and the belief that anyone can rewrite their story. The gym's walls had heard thousands of stories, of triumph and defeat, sweat and tears, but none like Marcus and Alex's unfolding tale. It was a journey beyond sparring or training into identity, resilience, and friendship's power. Marcus became a living legend, not for flashy moves or belts, but for embodying hardship and hope. His presence commanded respect but was humble and accessible to those needing more than technique. Alex admired Marcus, watching the cocky champion in himself peel away to reveal a man eager to grow mentally and emotionally. Their sessions shifted from dominance to understanding. Marcus challenged Alex to confront fears and prejudices. One afternoon, after a hard drill, they rested as the sun set, painting the gym gold and red. Alex asked Marcus about his fight. Marcus answered softly that his fights were not on the mat but the silent battles without applause. He'd grown up fighting against poverty, expectations, and the idea he was not enough. People saw a janitor, a nobody, but he fought to prove to himself he mattered. Alex's walls fell. He realized winning isn't beating others but being better than yourself yesterday. Marcus smiled. That's the real fight. Their bond deepened through stories and lessons. The gym became a crucible forging muscles and spirits. Their friendship became constant, a testament to empathy and growth. Inspired by Marcus, the community changed. Youth sought the gym hoping to find strength. Schools invited Marcus to speak on resilience and self-worth. His message touched hearts, igniting hope. Marcus stayed grounded, aware the journey was ongoing. Past shadows remained, but he faced them with quiet courage. Each day was a new chance to rise. As gym lights dimmed, Marcus stood alone on the mat, carrying past weight and future promise. Not just janitor or fighter, but survivor, mentor, rewriting his story one breath, one step, one fight at a time. Seasons passed. The gym breathed life. A simple sparring match blossomed into a movement woven into the community fabric. Marcus and Alex became symbols. Strength measured by heart, resilience, and courage to face demons. Early mornings were toughest. Marcus arrived before dawn, the gym quiet except city hum. Mats, once cold, now sacred ground for seen and unseen battles. Each mark told stories of sweat and growth. Alex joined, awe in his eyes. "You're here before anyone else." Marcus smiled. "Discipline. The hardest battles are inside." Training deepened beyond punches and kicks. Understanding movement, breathing, presence. Marcus taught slowing down, listening to body rhythm, finding strength in stillness and motion. One afternoon, during a break in training, Marcus shared a story from his youth, his voice low and steady. He spoke of growing up in a neighborhood that had little patience for dreams, where the weight of family troubles, lack of money, and fear often pulled him away from his desire to fight and prove something greater. Yet, despite all obstacles, Marcus revealed that what kept him going was hope, a belief that someday he could be more than what others saw. That belief sustained him through countless years of struggle, nights filled with doubt, long days of hard work, and moments of despair. Now, standing in the gym surrounded by a community that had embraced him, that hope burned stronger than ever. The gym had become a sanctuary, a haven for many who shared stories similar to Marcus's. Young fighters seeking not only physical training but also understanding and belonging. Marcus was their mentor, a beacon of guidance who knew their pain, their fears, and their dreams. His presence brought light to those walking through dark times. Alex, once cocky and self-assured, found himself transformed through this environment. His arrogance softened into humility, and his training took on a new meaning. Not just to be better for himself, but for those who looked up to him. He volunteered to coach younger students, passing on the lessons Marcus had taught him. One evening, as the sun set and a cool breeze wrapped around them, Marcus and Alex sat on the benches outside the gym. The city lights sparkled in the distance, and for a brief moment, the world seemed still. "Do you ever think about where this all started?" Alex asked. Marcus smiled gently. "Every day. It reminds me how far we've come, and how far we still have to go." Their journey was far from over, but together they had forged something unbreakable. A bond forged in sweat, respect, and shared struggle. The janitor and the champion, united not by rank, but by heart. As night deepened, the gym stood quietly, a fortress of hope in a world often forgetful of what it truly means to fight, not just with fists, but with spirit. Later, Marcus locked the gym's heavy doors behind him. The once stark and lonely building now pulsed with life and meaning, a sanctuary for those seeking more than physical strength. Walking toward his old car, the weight of the day settled on his shoulders, not as burden, but as a reminder of how far he'd come. Memories of the fateful sparring match lingered like echoes in the worn walls. That day was a turning point, when the invisible janitor stepped into the light, revealing a different kind of strength. The gym atmosphere had shifted. Whispers of respect replaced dismissive glances. People sought Marcus not just for training, but for guidance, stories, and hope. He became a mentor, a symbol of resilience and transformation. Alex was central to this change. The cocky champion who had once challenged Marcus just for fun found himself humbled, inspired, and forever changed. Their unlikely friendship blossomed into a partnership rooted in respect and shared struggle. Alex trained harder but also learned to listen, to himself, others, and the quiet wisdom Marcus imparted. One evening, while resting on a cracked bench near the gym entrance, Alex broke the silence. "Do you ever regret any of it? The fight, the risk?" Marcus's eyes held years of trials. "Sometimes, but every step, bruise, and lost moment brought me here. To this, to you, to all of this." The gym was a refuge where people shed doubts and embraced their potential. Marcus had transformed from floor cleaner to spirit lifter. Yet, beneath the surface, Marcus battled shadows, memories of pain, missed chances, and survival's harsh reality. Ghosts whispered doubts on some nights, threatening to pull him back. But each dawn, he chose to rise, facing the day with unwavering resolve. Alone in his modest apartment, Marcus reflected on his journey. He remembered the boy from a world scarce in hope and full of low expectations, the fights that never reached the mat, the battles against prejudice, poverty, and despair, and the possibilities still waiting to be claimed. The gym was more than a building. It was a beacon of hope, proving strength was measured not by trophies but by heart. Marcus was no longer invisible. He was seen, heard, respected. A janitor, fighter, mentor. A man rewriting his story one breath, one step, one fight at a time. As the city slept, Marcus smiled, ready for whatever battle came next. Weeks passed, and the gym buzzed with activity and hope. What started as a sparring match blossomed into a movement woven into the community's fabric. Marcus, once just a janitor, had become a symbol for those long overlooked. Alex's eyes now held quiet intensity from facing limits and embracing vulnerability. His swagger replaced by grounded presence that drew others in. His respect for Marcus grew, not just as a fighter, but as a man weathered by storms no belt could show. After the last punch bag stopped swinging, Marcus and Alex sat side by side on the mat's edge, breathing slow and steady. "I never thanked you," Alex said softly. "For what?" Marcus asked. "For showing me there's more to fighting than fighting. For reminding me who I really am." Marcus smiled, warmth settling like a gentle embrace. We all need reminders. Their bond had become rare, forged not in competition but shared struggle and respect. The gym was now a community, a family. New faces arrived daily, drawn by Marcus's story and spirit. They came seeking strength and found acceptance, hope, and chances to rewrite their stories. Marcus reached out to those reminding him of his younger self. Kids from tough neighborhoods weighed down by circumstances but hungry for change. His words were simple but powerful. "You're worth fighting for." One afternoon, a young woman asked after class, eyes bright yet cautious, "Mr. Marcus, how do you keep believing when everything tries to tear you down?" Marcus knelt, meeting her gaze. "Because I've been there. Inside, you have a fire nobody can take away. Sometimes the world tries to put it out, but it's yours to keep alive." Her smile was shy but genuine. A spark of hope ignited. Though nights remained hard, memories creeping in like unwelcome guests. Each dawn found Marcus facing ghosts with strength built through years of fight and faith. The gym lights dimmed as they sat silently, the mentor-student bond undeniable. Their story, more than sparring, was a testament to resilience, respect, and the transformative power of truly seeing someone. Marcus stretched, ready for what came next. Because this was just the beginning. Though the gym had closed, Marcus stayed, footsteps echoing softly on hardwood. The silence was reverent, not loneliness. This was his sanctuary, where every scrape and sweat told a story of struggle and triumph. He glanced at faded champion photos on the wall, but none felt as real as his own invisible battles fought in shadows. From boyhood in a hopeless neighborhood to now standing a symbol. The transformation was hard, years of silent perseverance, nights wrestling doubts, days pushing forward despite rejection. The sparring match with Alex sparked the fire, fueled by setbacks, victories, friendships, and conquered self-doubt. Alex's journey mirrored his own. Humility through fire, realizing true strength was connection, not dominance. Their friendship became a beacon, proving the power of looking beyond surface to the fight within. Marcus recalled early days when no one believed him, presence ignored, dreams dismissed. But he fought not only on mats but within himself. Fiercest battles were silent, unseen. That night, as he prepared to leave, a young man approached hesitantly. Marcus saw his own past uncertainty reflected. "Mr. Marcus," he said quietly, How do you keep going when it feels like the world is against you? Marcus smiled warmly. You fight because you have to, not for glory, but because your story deserves telling. Every day is a chance to write a new chapter. The young man left inspired. Outside, city lights twinkled like distant stars. Marcus breathed deeply, feeling past weight and future promise intertwined. He wasn't just a janitor anymore. He was a fighter, mentor, man turning invisibility into influence, struggle into strength. His story was far from over. The gym's pulse slowed as night deepened, but inside, something reached crescendo. Marcus and Alex's journey approached reckoning, a moment where lessons, struggles, transformations converged. Marcus stood near the mat's center, feeling countless footsteps and stories beneath. The battleground had become hope's cradle. His fire burned fiercely still. Alex approached, serious but calm, confidence replaced by poised determination from trials. I've been thinking, Alex said, about what it means to be a fighter, not just here, tapping the mat, but in life. Marcus nodded. Winning isn't about beating others. It's conquering your doubts, fears, limits. Marcus smiled knowingly. A lesson we both had to learn. Their bond symbolized that respect and strength come from heart and humility, not just skill or rank. The gym changed. Walls between fighters and staff fell. The janitorial team embraced as family. Newcomers arrived daily, drawn by Marcus's rise and spirit. But the journey wasn't just external. Marcus and Alex bore visible and invisible scars, reminders of battles off the mats. The true test was choosing daily to rise and move forward. One evening, watching a sunset paint the sky, Marcus said softly, "This is just the beginning. So much to do. So many stories to change." Alex nodded. Together, the gym doors opened. New fighters arrived eager to learn not just to fight but to live with purpose and strength. Marcus greeted them with full heart. He knew every fight, fall, rise had led him here. No longer invisible, but powerful. As city lights flickered, the gym stood as beacon. A reminder that greatest battles lead to profound victories. The end was near, but the legacy had just begun.